Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. It is hot. I have the windows open. I do not have a fan in this room. I'm foolish enough to actually turn on my overhead light, so I've got some color coming through on my face, but I'm going to try to stick it out in the heat with just the windows open. So find a good place to watch tonight's class. So hopefully you're in an air conditioned room. As we normally do, please sign in. I've gone to just having my computer microphone on. I am not using the prop that I have in front of you. What this microphone does for me is it allows me to hear myself through my headphones here, so I know that I'm actually speaking clearly and at the correct volume. So please sign in. It looks like we've got about 17 people. Uh, I have imagined that as we get closer to the 4th and family activities start to take priority, I understand that it is going to be difficult to maybe attend a few of these classes. But remember that if you are not here, you should be watching this later this evening or tomorrow sometime to get credit for that. And to remember that if you're watching it at a later time, you should still be letting me know that I am not on this evening. I will be watching it and answering the questions as I would if it was live. We are slightly behind in our schedule of content, so we are going to pick up where we left off from the last class. We are going to be talking about signs, signals, and pavement markings for the majority of this evening, and then we'll get into stopping. Excuse me. I'm looking at my phone, and I do have some available drive times for tomorrow. I don't have it up on the screen. I'll probably post it, but 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock tomorrow night, I do have open. Thursday, I have 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And Friday's pretty wide open after 10 o'clock. I have a lot of openings on Friday. And then, of course, Saturday, I will be driving all day. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be a week full of content because we've got to get us up to the point of the midterm. And then we're going to have a long break. We're going to have the 4th off from class because I think we've got a good amount of people that will not be around. So what we're going to do is no class next week, remember, but we are going to pound out a lot of driving. Some of you have not driven much at all. It's surprising. I've got some of you around 4 hours of driving in, and then I've got some of you that only have 1 or 2. So we've got to start to step up and do more of these times. I see some of the people texting me in right now. I'll try to get back to those at a later time. But yes, I'll try to give you top priority if you're texting in on some of those times so we can get you in driving. So hopefully you will communicate on YouTube to let me know if I have any problems with the videos or any problems with the sound. So we're going to try to have a clean class for this week to get through everything that we need to without any technical glitches. Let's get right into tonight's topic of signs, signals, and pavement markings. So if you remember what I ended class with last Thursday, we were talking about how traffic lights are censored, and according to traffic flow, cars will set lights to change. I expect you, as you continue to drive with me over these 10 hours, that you will get more familiar with this technique and get a little bit better at evaluating when lights are going to change. Most testing sites will have some type of traffic signal included in your driving test. And we all will hope and pray that as you approach on your driving test the intersection, that you're going to have a green light. Because the hardest thing to do with all traffic lights is what do we do with that yellow light? What do we do when we have to make a decision? Do we go or do we stop? So we're going to basically get right into that of what to do at traffic lights. Oh, before we get there, this video I do not have loaded, but I did want to talk about emergency vehicles. So please get out your notebooks and please take notes. Like I said, this topic is one of the most, see, how can I put it? One of the hardest topics to fully understand and put into practice once you're out on the road driving with your parents or driving with me. Because we're going through things so quickly, like we're only going to spend probably 5 minutes now on emergency vehicles. And unless you're fully tuned in, taking good notes, you're going to miss some of the finer points to how to handle some of these situations. So I really, really think that last Thursday and tonight's class will be probably one of the more heavily note-taking classes. I mean, tomorrow's class, not so much. Thursday's class, we're back to getting into a lot more notes. But for the most part, some subjects are kind of light, just kind of topical, things to kind of keep in mind when we approach certain situations. But tonight, let's kind of hit the notes really, really hard. So in your notepads, what I want you to write down, emergency vehicles. And what I want you to write down is that depending on where they're approaching will dictate what you do. So let me explain. When an emergency vehicle is responding to an alarm, okay, whether it be a fire truck, police car, or an ambulance, those are the three emergency vehicles that we have to contend with on the road. By far, the worst would be coming from behind. So in your notes, coming from behind. What you need to do is to put your signal on, move to the right as far as you can, away from your lane, and come to a stop if it's behind you. All right? Now, look for a place that you're not holding up an intersection, that you're not probably in front of somebody's driveway. Not that they're going to come out with an emergency vehicle, but there are smart places to pull over, and then there's not so smart places. So put your directional on, pull over as far as you can. Try not to leave the pavement, but put your car over as far as you can. Now, when you leave the pavement, there's always a chance that there's going to be debris, there could be glass, there could be nails. You don't want to pop your tire just for pulling over for an ambulance. The reason why you're stopping is because there's nothing worse for an emergency vehicle to contend with cars that are kind of moving a little bit and kind of swaying back out into the lane to miss things like potholes or drains. So just come to a stop. Now, once the emergency vehicle leaves, then you put your directional on, check your rear view mirror, side view mirror, look over your shoulder, just what you would do for a lane change, and then come out when it's safe. Now, here is what you will not find in a manual. You will not find this in a textbook. Don't be surprised if the cars behind you that have pulled over will try to pass you when you come back out onto the roadway. This is why you need to make your checks. Because if you do not do it in a timely manner, then people are going to say, fine, I'm just going to go by you. I can't tell you how many times we've been passed pulling over for an emergency vehicle that's coming from behind. So let's deal with the other direction. They're coming, you're driving, and they're coming towards you. You need to move over as far as you can, but stopping is not necessarily what you're going to have to do. Most cars you'll find on the opposite side will not stop, so I would tend to follow suit. Now, the way it's written on the law books and the vehicle code book is, I believe, is pull over and stop. Because you want the emergency vehicle to have full access to the middle of the road to go as fast as they want to go. They're going to probably more or less stay in the lane that you're in if they're coming up from behind, and kind of not really deal with you coming from the opposite direction. So just go slow, pokey slow, but you probably won't have to come to a complete stop. Now, we talked about the Opticom lights. That was the picture that we ended last night's class, or last Thursday's class. So just realize if you're in the city, the intersection will be showing that Opticom light will be activated. Okay, let's talk about right on red. It is legal, okay, in your notes, it is legal in all 50 states. There is not a state in the United States that does not allow turning right on red. Where we come into a situation is that you may find it illegal in some cities, like I believe Washington, D.C., I believe New York City. I know when I was up in Montreal, so in a different country. So do not be surprised if it's territorial, meaning that if you're in a certain excuse me, part of the country, it's not going to be legal. So look for your signs. Look for a sign that says no turn on red light. If it's not posted, it's legal. So let's talk about dealing with turning right on red. There are 3 things that I want you to remember. And you would think that this would be simple, but some of you don't do this. Okay, the first thing I want you to do, it's a red light, come to a stop. That's the first thing. Well, that's stating the obvious, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people don't do that. They already look to the left, and when they see no one's coming from the left, they roll through the stop sign. Do not do that. So as you approach an intersection, it's a red light, you want to turn right, you come to a stop. Second thing, you look for the sign telling you that you can't do it. There are places in Dover, Somersworth, that do not allow turning right on red, so look for your sign. Third thing, now look for traffic. If you pull out right on red and a car comes up behind you and they have to brake, you have not turned right on red correctly. The only time you turn right on red is when you do not interfere with traffic, meaning what they're doing, the speed that they're going. And here's the big question, and I want you to answer this question on YouTube here so we can see who's with us this morning or this afternoon, morning. You can tell how my day's gone. I've just been putting out a lot of drive time, so it just seems like I've been in the car forever. Here's the question. If it says no turn, let's see, how do I want to state this? Do you have to turn right on red if you don't want to? That's a good way to put it. Let's say you come to a red light and you don't want to turn right on red. There's no cars coming, but you still don't want to do it. Do you have to turn right on red? So answer that question over on the YouTube section so I can see people's answers rather than on the phones. Next thing I want to talk about with traffic lights is that what would happen if a traffic light is no longer working? What should you do? So in your notes, when traffic lights do not work, they become like a stop sign. Okay? When traffic lights do not work, they become stop signs. Now, if there's a police officer, he overrules everything. Everybody's answering the question correctly. Good. You do not have to turn right on red if you do not want to. That is good. Everybody's saying no. Okay, now, I guess a better question is now you're not going to turn right on red, but wonder if a car comes up behind you and they beep the horn at you. Are you going to feel obligated to do it? The question is still, answer is still no, but I think that what will happen is that people will somewhat push you to the point of making you do something that you may not feel comfortable. So what I want to stress, it is still no. You do not have to turn right on red if you do not want to. Now, once it turns green, yeah, you have to go. But if it stays red and you don't want to go, don't go. I don't care if there's a person beeping the horn behind you. You don't have to go. There's no law indicating that you have to do that. Now, conversely, about turning right on red, do you have to do it? What happens when the light turns green? Do you have to go? Yes, but you don't have to go the second that it's green. You can hesitate, make your checks to the left and to the right, make sure there's nobody running a traffic light, because if someone's running a traffic light, you don't want to get T-boned, you don't want to get hit. So if the light turns green and you're the first vehicle, like in this situation, it looks like a blue car in front of us, just hesitate, wait to see if you feel comfortable. Everything's cleared through, then go. Okay, let's talk about yellow lights. And this is the term that I will test you on, and I do want you to understand the whole concept behind this term. Point of no return. There comes a point, because your car has weight, it has mass, it has speed as you're traveling towards the intersection. When the light turns yellow, you have to make a decision about whether you're going to go through or you're going to stop. But it's going to be based upon your distance to the stop line with the speed that you're going. All right, so I want you to write this down. Point of no return is when the light turns yellow, and it's based upon your speed and what you have left for stopping distance. Well, Mr. Toll, how do I know that? Wonder if the speed limit's 30 and I'm going 28. Do I stop or do I go? What you need to do is to find some object, either like a crack in the road, could be a sign, telephone pole. Say in your mind at 27, 28 miles per hour, whatever speed you're going, if I get to that point and the light turns yellow, so it's still green right now, if the light turns yellow, I've already made up my mind, I don't think I can stop in this distance, you're going to go through. That is your point of no return. That is the point you're going to live and die by, going through the yellow light. Now, a lot of people say, if you take a look at the solid white line, and a lot of times at intersections you have multiple lanes, and there's a solid line that will separate. I think it's good to use that solid line with going the speed limit or slightly below the speed limit as your point of no return. If you're going faster than the speed limit, let's say it's 30 and you're going 33, 34, you're going to have to go back from that line. So go further away from the stop line. So rather than having 60, 70 feet, you may need 80 or 90 feet. So the faster you go, the longer your stopping distance is. This is why I like, and I encourage people to go at a slower speed as you approach the intersection. A slower speed gives you more options whether to go or to not to go. The faster you go, you have to make a quicker decision, and you better be pretty good on using that brake pedal. So know what's behind you too, because you could say, oh, I'm going to stop real quick, but then again, a person behind you that's following too closely may say, oh no, I'm going to go through that traffic light, and that's where you're going to get hit from behind. I'd much rather have you go through a light that's yellow just turning red and not get hit because a car behind you went with you than to get hit. Now remember, just because the light is just turning red as you go underneath the intersection, the light to the left and to the right of you does not turn green automatically. Remember, there's a couple seconds of a buffer between your yellow light going to red and the light turning green for people in either direction. But this takes practice. It takes practice. And I'm going to show you a video in a moment that car is really taking too much liberty of going through on a yellow light that's turning red. So let's talk about arrows for a minute. We have green arrows, we have red arrows. And red arrows can be to the right and they can also be to the left. So with green arrows, what I want you to write down in your notes are what we call protected turns. You're the only one going in that direction. So the people coming towards you, you would think would have a green light, but they don't. They have a red light. So when you've got a green arrow, go ahead, go slow, and make your turn. Red arrows that are pointing right, look for any signs indicating whether you can still make your turn or do you have to stop. Usually, with a red light arrow, you're going to have to wait for it to be green. Now, in some situations, now this sign right here in Dover, this is from Dover, and look at, they named a street after me. Look at, my name's right above that street sign. They've changed this. This sign, this white sign, is no longer in Dover. It is now legal to turn right on that red arrow. So if you don't see a sign, treat it like a regular red light. Stop, look for signs, look for traffic, and then go. Now here's something that will catch your parents on. After tonight's class, ask your parents, when can you turn left on a red light? Ask your parents that question. I'll bet you they get it wrong. Ask your parents, when can you turn left on a red arrow? On a red light. The answer is a left red arrow that's blinking, or a solid red light that's blinking. So do not be tricked up on a test about turning left on a red light. If the light is blinking, it becomes a stop sign. And at stop signs, you check. If it's clear, then you go. This gets a lot of people, so don't be fooled. Okay, let's talk about people that run red lights. Here's the video that I was talking about that you're going to find to be unbelievable. And as we watch the video, they're going to get, the circumstances are going to get worse. All right, so let me show you people that are running red lights. And this is in Missouri. You can see that they're getting a little bit worse now. Here's bad weather, and the bus basically blocks the view of the cars that are starting to go through the green light. Now, I think number 2 is worse than number 1. Now, I think this is bad, but I think hitting a pedestrian, as we just saw. Now, this is by far the worst. If you time out when the light is red, okay, watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds they stopped. The car ran a red light that was red for 7 seconds. Now, they're going to show you the same view from an opposing, a different direction. You'll see the car that stopped in the far right lane. Look how close, look how far back the car that's going to run it. He's lucky that he didn't hit the bus. What is going through people's minds? We don't know. This is why never take for granted what a green light is telling you. Yes, the light is green, that you should be able to go through an intersection, but trust no one. trust no one when it comes to intersections. So I thought that would be interesting, and I just saw Luke during the video. He says here on the screen that he knows some of these roads. So it's kind of a small world when you come into driver's ed. You never know what you're going to find for videos. All right, let's talk about crosswalks. And I'm not using this video. We'll talk a little bit more about pedestrians on our last week of class. But a few things that I want to mention about crosswalks. First thing, you should always stop at least 5 to 10 feet away. Never go right up to the edge of the crosswalk. You want people to feel comfortable passing in front of your vehicle. And I think I mentioned this to you before. Nothing angers me more than if we're stopped for pedestrians and you let go of the brake pedal ever so slightly. Most people tell me, Mr. Toll, I had an itch on my foot. I just had to let go of my brake pedal a little bit. I wasn't going to go. But what you're telling a pedestrian that's walking directly in front of you and you're moving towards them is go faster. It's called pushing. Do not push pedestrians. Let them cross at their rate. You may not be happy with the speed that they're walking in front of you, but you should. Now, another situational problem when it comes to crosswalks, what are you going to do when the person's blind and they can't see that you're there? What are you going to do? Now, you may want to beep your horn to let them know that you're there. I think that's a friendly reminder. But if they're being led by a guide dog, sometimes the guide dog thinks you're too close, or they hear the rev of your engine, and they've been trained not to allow their owner to cross the road. So stay back further when you see that someone is blind. It helps the guide dog make a determination whether it's safe for their owner to cross the road. And a lot of people ask me, can I still go forward after they walk past me and they're beyond the yellow line going the opposite direction? Can I still go? I would probably say yes, because they're not coming back in the opposite direction. But if they're walking towards you, let them walk fully all the way across, without coming close to their, backside as they walk past you. You got to give them a little bit of room. In some cities, we see bike lanes, and bike lanes are now being, they're using signals, so they're implementing traffic signals to make bikes realize, hey, you're just like everybody else on the road. You should not go when it's red. You can go when it's green. But bicycles right now have a tendency just to make up their own rules and go wherever they want. International signs, this is something when you go to a different country. Basically, shapes and colors are the same. So we know this is do not enter. We know that's a taxi. We know blue means services for drivers and pedestrians or whatever. So we can basically gather. When I drove in Italy, I didn't have to take any special test when I went for vacation. It's basically show your New Hampshire license. They take a photocopy of it. You pay a fee. They put it in the computer system. You basically say you're going to follow their laws. So you just read your signs and kind of get up to snuff on, any special circumstances in the country that you're driving, and you should be okay on what they call an international license. I should take a picture of mine and put it on. So I'll do that maybe tomorrow if I have enough time. This may kind of seem strange to you, because when people look at this, they go, wait a minute, everything is spelled backwards. Why is that? And then they look at the vehicle and they go, why is the guy driving from the passenger side? Okay, I took a picture of my side view mirror when I was at a stop sign for a while, traffic light, excuse me. And I just took a picture. Because what I want you to realize is that anything that you see in your side view mirror, rear view mirror, when it comes to wording, it's going to be backwards. This is why the word ambulance is spelled backwards. So when you look in your mirror, it looks correct. So don't be surprised. Your mirrors may fool you at times when you drive. Future of signs. I think I do have it. Because cars are now being built when you go past certain signs or certain landmarks, because of GPS, that they will light up on your instrument panel. We basically have that in the driver's ed vehicle. There is a button that we can push, and it can come up on the screen. And as we go on certain roads, it'll give us what the speed limit on that particular road is. So if you want to see it, I could probably, let you take a look at it at some point when we drive. You just got to remind me. I have a tendency to forget what we cover. But this is the video that Ford provided as an overview of their driver assistance systems with traffic sign recognition.
While driving, one passes so many traffic signs that sometimes even important information, such as speed limits or no overtaking signs, can get lost. The driver can also sometimes be distracted by traffic and not notice some of the signs. The Ford Traffic Sign Recognition System eliminates this issue by showing important traffic sign information in the instrument panel cluster. On display are speed limits and bans on overtaking, as well as their cancellation. The front camera records the traffic signs and transmits the respective data to the vehicle's traffic sign recognition system. The traffic sign recognition system uses an aging algorithm. This means that recently detected signs appear lighter. After a while, the color gets darker until the signs begin to gray out and finally completely disappear. This helps to make the driver aware of changes in real time.
So that's what we have in the driver's ed vehicle right now. It actually just comes up and it basically disappears when we get to another speed zone. So it basically just does speed. So let's talk a little bit about pavement markings. And pavement markings can be broken up into 4 categories: yellow and white, solid and broken. All right, 4 categories for pavement markings. You should know: color, yellow and white, and then solid or dotted. So let's deal with the color. If you're driving and the line to the left of you is yellow, it is indicating two-way traffic. If the line is white to the left of you, it is telling you traffic is going in the same direction, like over the bridge going from Dover into Newington. Now, a solid line is basically telling you do not go over that line to overtake. So no lane changes, no passing, you stay in your lane. Don't cross over that. If you have a dotted line to the left of you, passing's allowed. Okay, so just remember that you're getting those 4 distinct informations from what's to the left of you. A lot of times people will get confused. And remember, the white line to the right is always going to mark the edge of the road. And the state of New Hampshire, at least when you go for your license, they love to call that white line the fog line, F-O-G, fog line. Because when you drive in bad weather and you can't see the road well, they want you to be positioned right of center, close to that white line. So let's talk about a few other things about lines. We know on back roads, you're more or less likely to be able to get by vehicles, so you're going to have more solid lines. If you do have passing, then it's going to be into oncoming traffic, so it's going to be a broken yellow line. Need to know this for the midterm, I believe. Shared left turn lanes, which means that anybody wanting to turn left will have to go into the center lane. So if you look at that picture to the right, and remember, it's not only for you turning left, it's for oncoming cars that are coming towards you. So the question I have, wonder if you want to make a left-hand turn and there's oncoming cars coming towards you and they want to turn left at the exact same spot. What are you going to do? Okay, this is what you need to do. You need to make sure that you've left at least a car and a half, a 2-car length between you and the vehicle that is coming towards you to make a left-hand turn. So kind of look off to the right and try to look at where are they going, where are they turning. If you can figure out where they're turning, just stop your vehicle. And then it comes to a matter of what people have for traffic. You're looking for an opening in traffic behind the person that's in front of you turning left, and the person that's turning left in front of you is looking over your vehicle behind you to see what the traffic is like behind you in order to make their left turn. So this is where you're going to have to spend a lot of time looking in your mirrors, have a basic understanding of, it looks like he's going to go, there's no cars behind me coming, so he's going to probably leave and make his left turn. So let him go. Once he makes his left turn, if you're positioned to make yours, then you can make it, or if you have to move up a little bit further, then you can do it, or you may have to wait for traffic. I think it's one of the hardest things to do is to pull out into a road and use that shared left turn lane accurately. It's okay when you're traveling on the road and moving into that left turn lane. You're just waiting for a gap in traffic and then you're turning like you normally do. But when you're on a side street, or if you're in a business and you're coming out to a main road that has a shared turn lane, a lot of times people, they're tired of waiting for a gap in traffic. They will actually go right out into traffic, position their car in that area, and just wait for an opening before they move over to the right. And if you do that, and I should probably make a video so you can see that, you should probably use your directional, and not probably, yeah, you should use your directional while you wait in that left turn lane for an opening to come, and then look over your shoulder, look in your mirrors, and then move over to the right lane when the opening comes. The rest of the stuff here I think we've already covered, so I'm not going to go over that. And most of this too is from the textbook. Now this is directly from the textbook, and why I wanted to include this, because for the most part people do not realize that New England doesn't have some of the more modern traffic road designs, and reversible lanes is one of those situations. And all I want you to write down with reversible lanes is that the center lane, the middle lane, so there's 5 lanes here, the middle lane, lane number 3, will change direction depending on the time of day. So here is a situation where people are going into the city in the morning, so the middle lane is going left. In the evening, we want to get more traffic out, so now the middle lane is going off to the right. So that's it in the evening. Always find a lane that has a green arrow. Now, when you find yourself in these situations, there's going to be arrows hanging on a wire over your lane. Always find yourself in a lane that has a green arrow. Stay away from lanes that have red X's. If a lane has a yellow light, you can stay there momentarily, but then you're going to have to find a lane with a green arrow. So we find this more out west or down south. We really don't have much. We do have something around here called zipper lanes. And a zipper lane means the same thing. It changes according to the time of day. And I videotaped a zipper lane in Massachusetts. This is 93 in South Boston. I was going to visit my daughter, who at the time was working in Quincy, which is just south of Boston. And if you take a look to the right of the cones, that is the main highway. Once you go to the left and into that 3rd lane, okay, what you need to understand about that zipper lane, at least in Massachusetts, is we've got these concrete walls, what they call barriers. Once you get in the lane, you're not going to be able to get out of it until you get to the very, very end. So realize when you're in, you're in. There's no changing your mind. The other thing you got to remember is what happens if you have a flat tire or a mechanical breakdown. You're going to be holding up traffic. Nobody's going to be able to deal with it. So they're going to have to radio a tow truck coming from the opposite direction to come out and get you. And they'll probably close the zipper lane. They'll push traffic back onto the main highway. But let me show you the video. I actually did a video. Let's see if I got it right here. Yep. So here we go. We went to the left, so no longer can we go back. This is the last second we can go back to the right there. So now we're stuck in the zipper lane. Now in the evening, so this is late afternoon. So in the evening, they're going to push this or make this lane in the opposite direction. The very end of it, they change it. They change it so you can't get in. The other problem too that I didn't mention is that if you get into this lane, watch out, because if you want to take the exit that's up there on the right, see that green guide sign? If you want to take exit 52, you can't do it because you can't hop over that barrier. So you're stuck. You're there for the whole time. So this is the closest that we have to reversible lanes. So we already talked about this. The one thing that we did not talk about is HOV stands for high occupancy vehicle. So make sure that you understand that. People that are high occupancy vehicles are cars that carry more than two people. You have to have at least two people. Can't be a single driver driving in the HOV lane. Now, in some states, I think Connecticut, California, they allow hybrids or electric cars to use the HOV with just the driver. So just remember, don't get caught in those lanes. If you're all by yourself and you're a gas-powered car, you're going to get in trouble. I do want you to be somewhat familiar with the route numbers. So the top part here on the right, odd first numbers on an interstate, like here we have Interstate 17. So Interstate 17 goes north-south. What we have here in New Hampshire, we have 95 or 93. So that's an odd first number, goes north-south. Down in the middle part of the country, going east-west, you're going to have an even number like 80 or 40. Okay. Now, when you're dealing with state routes, which are three-digit routes, the two state routes that we have in Durham are 155 and 108. So three-digit routes with an odd first number go into a city. If it's a three-digit state route with an even number, it goes through or around, like 202. So this green guide sign, green means guidance, it's telling us that there are 4 roadways that are coming to a intersecting area, and that's what a junction is. So if you wanted to get to any of these roadways, you can from where you're viewing this picture right now. I want you to write down in your notes what a display stop line is. A display stop line, and in this case it's on the left, and usually you will find it on the left. It's back probably 5 to 10 feet from the stop line to the right. And it's basically for large trucks and buses that need to make wider turns. So don't take the liberty, or don't think it's not that important and you're going to go stop up where those green cars are. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to stop at your stop lines. No portion of your vehicle should be overhanging that area. So keep it clear. Durham has 2 such intersections with a display stop line. Dover has a few intersections with display stop lines. Now, I thought this was kind of funny. Don't be surprised when you drive with me. I keep my phone pretty close, and when I see a picture that I think I can use for driver's ed, I'll pick up my phone and take a picture. Here's a picture that I caught a state trooper doing the wrong thing. I thought you'd get a kick out of it. What is wrong with this picture? Even the state trooper made a mistake. Look where he is in regards to his stop line. He's a full car length beyond his stop line. What color is the light up ahead? It certainly isn't green. Okay, this should have never happened. I thought it was kind of funny. Okay, I would never say it to an officer because who knows, I might get a ticket. But okay, even officers make mistakes. Let's talk about school buses. We are out of school for the summer. We do not have to follow school speed limits because we don't have to worry about that right now. But come the end of August, beginning of September, kids are going to start going to school again. We're going to be back, hopefully, to normal, no mask, regular school day, no special classes or things like that. We're going to go right back to being normal. But we need to know what to do when we go to school and we're driving to school and there are kids waiting for buses or they're getting off the bus late afternoon. What should we know and how should we handle the situations of buses picking up kids? Okay, first thing I want you to write down your notes, and we got it up here on the board, is yellow lights on a bus indicate that a stop is soon approaching. They're looking for either a driveway or an intersection where kids would be running out to get on the bus, or if it's late afternoon, where they're going to let kids off. So the yellow light comes on first, the pickup, drop off, so stay back. Now, when the lights turn red, you've got to make sure that you're no closer than 25 feet. You have to be at least 25 feet behind. Do not be too close. A lot of people say, well, I don't know what 25 feet looks like. Now, the way I remember it and the way that you will hear me say it when you're driving with me, can you squeeze two car lengths? If you can squeeze two cars in front of you, then you've got probably 25 feet or more. If you can't fit two cars, then you don't have 25. And then always be aware of kids coming to the bus or leaving after school. This is actually Durham, I think. I took a video. So that is definitely at least two car lengths. So this is a student driving at the time, and you're probably familiar with this road. That's not too far from the high school. You can see the signs, easily displayed. Kids, and that person that just got off the bus now is going to be walking in front of the bus. That's what they're supposed to do. The bus is not supposed to move. They want to make sure that everybody is stopped before they go. Now, you would think that with bus safety, most people would say, hey, it's a bus. They're picking up kids. They're dropping off kids. I got to be paying attention. There's no way I'm going to go around a bus with a red flashing lights and a stop sign. But surprisingly, and I found this, I think 2 years ago, I think in 1 week, I think it says at the beginning of this news report, there were like 5 people in a week's time that were killed getting off the bus or getting on the bus. Really, really sad. Let me show you the news article.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Terror at a school bus stop in Tampa this morning.
I didn't know which kid to help because there was so many laying on the ground.
Witnesses say a speeding car slammed into 5 children and 2 adults, leaving one child in critical condition. The driver now in custody. One of 4 accidents at school bus stops in just the past 3 days. In central Pennsylvania this morning, a 7-year-old killed in a hit and run. The driver never even stopping to help. While in Mississippi, this man is now charged with aggravated assault after a 9-year-old was struck and killed. And in Indiana, a community is mourning 3 siblings killed this week crossing the road on their way to the bus. That driver also facing charges. Some 25 million students nationwide ride a school bus, but experts say getting on and off can be the most dangerous time, especially this time of year. Right before daylight saving time ends, it's often dark as children wait in the morning. So reflective clothing or backpacks can help and teach children to line up away from the street, stay alert, and never assume a driver will stop. A deadly lesson learned the hard way for so many this week. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, New York.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for...
I don't know about you, but as a parent, I have 3 children. I can't think of anything worse than losing my entire family in one day out in front of the house. I'd have to sell the house. I don't even know if I could actually stay there that night, because an image every time I'd look out the window or walked out the door would be a reminder of what happened. But as we were just saying, who would go by a bus with flashing red lights and a stop sign sticking out the side? Okay, write this down in your notes. Early morning, late afternoon, when you're driving, put your phone away. These people, I think the one that killed the 3, I think she was on her phone. She didn't even see that there was a bus. She was looking down at her phone. And I think speed will also be a problem. You can't go fast. You've got to go slow as you come to a stop, especially just over a hill, around a corner. You just never know what you're going to find. Early morning, late afternoon. Pretty sad. Pretty sad. So there are the kids right there. I found the article. Let's talk about railroads. Being in New England, we still use railroads to transport people to the city. So we do have Amtrak that goes from Maine through New Hampshire into Boston. So we do see the Amtrak here in Durham. We do have trains that still carry cargo, most likely like lumber or salt in the wintertime, sand, things like that. They're not much for, merchandise. We do that by tractor trailer trucks mostly now. because they have to go to like an Amazon location. But we still have crossings on back roads and in the city. So what I want you to write down is that anytime that you approach a railroad crossing, assume that a train could be coming. More so on back roads than in the city, because in the city we have what we have on the screen right here. We have a crossbuck sign, and we have a warning system with gates that will come down to tell us to stay stopped until the train has gone by. The gates will lift up, and then it will be safe to, go on our way. But on back roads and country roads, a lot of times it's just a stop sign at the track to make you stop, check both ways, and then go. And what we find in back country areas is that people hear and see the train coming and they don't want to stop, so they try to go faster, and it gets to be like a game of chicken where they try to beat the train coming, and this is where they're going to have a crash. Now remember, a train can only go in two directions. It can go forward, it can go back. It cannot make a left turn, it cannot make a right turn. And what you're going to see in the video that I'm going to show you in a moment, it takes close to a mile before a train will come to a full stop. So if you have any mechanical problems, if you have any situation where the gate comes down and kind of comes on top of your vehicle and you can't get off the gate, get out of your vehicle. Run at a 45-degree angle. Do not try to free your car from the tracks. It is dangerous. So when it comes to a gate, make sure that you stop at least 15 feet away, because 15 feet is in case the train derails. If a train tips over at a roadway, from the bottom of the train to the top of the train is pretty close to 15 feet. So if you're closer to stop than that, it's going to fall on top of the hood of your vehicle. Now, if you stay back more than 50 feet, then there's going to be a chance that people will try to get by you. They may not know there's a railroad crossing. They don't see the stop sign or whatever. And the other thing with this picture here is that in the city, a lot of times we'll have multiple tracks, 2, 3, 4 tracks. So just because a train goes by doesn't mean that you should step on it and try to cross the track, because a train could be coming from the opposite direction. So be very careful of trains. The other thing too, if you ever have problems with trains, there is a number on that crossbuck sign that you can call and say that there's an issue, because sometimes the lights will just come on and there's no train coming, so something has been triggered and they're going to have to alleviate the problem or override the system. Let me show you how railroad tracks actually work.
The first train car northbound is on fire. We have multiple injuries.
600,000-ton train that could be barreling down and hitting you.
We hit a big truck. We're on the ground.
It's a horrifying experience.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh!
Hundreds of people are killed at crossings every year, and these are completely preventable. One of the ways we can prevent these accidents is for the public to do their job. The emergency notification system provides motorists or pedestrians with a phone number that they can call, and then we'll be able to stop train traffic that's heading in that direction. It's the first phone call you want to make if there's anything happening at a crossing. You want to stop any oncoming train.
Every grade crossing is protected with an emergency notification sign. What that provides is an emergency notification phone number that the passenger or the motorist can immediately notify the railroad of any emergency at that crossing. The locator crossing number, which is 6 digits and a letter, can effectively tell the train dispatcher exactly where they are. When you call that number, you're talking to the train dispatcher that's specifically associated with that railroad.
You'll get a response right away. This train dispatcher picks up and he's going to ask, what location are you at? You give him that DOT number. you stay clear of the tracks. Let the dispatcher handle everything from that point on. Once you get that call in, for me to contact the locomotive engineer on the train, it could be 5-10 seconds. I'm going to get him on the radio immediately and say, bring your train to a safe stop. We have an emergency situation ahead. Calling 911 is not going to stop the train from coming. The first responder is your train dispatcher in this case. That 800 number is going to get you right to the first responder.
Unfortunately, far too often people get complacent around railroad tracks. That's really a recipe for harm or disaster.
If you're towing a vehicle, if you're a fire engine responding to an emergency situation, you still need to let the railroad know that you're in that space, that you are close to the tracks or you're on the tracks.
The ENS sign can be located in many places, either on the crossbuck, directly at the crossing, or on the silver box, which is usually located adjacent to the crossing. So you should call it if you suspect that the gates are malfunctioning, if you see a vehicle that's stuck on the tracks, if you see any suspicious activity, if you see something that looks out of place, or an object that's obstructing the tracks. As soon as your vehicle is stuck on the tracks and the crossing is activated, you need to get away from that vehicle as soon as possible and run at a 45-degree angle towards the train. Far too many times we see people trying to save their vehicles, and the unfortunate reality is when they're trying to save their vehicles, in many cases they lose their life.
These incidents also have a profound impact on locomotive engineers, because that individual may have long-term effects from this incident that affect them professionally and personally.
Stop, it's not going to stop.
If something happens and you are stuck on the grade crossing, the first thing you want to do is get your car off. So just drive through the gate. The gates are meant to break away, and so you will be able to get to the other side. You never want to be stuck at a crossing. So don't try to get over the crossing until you know you can get to the other side. Don't be stuck in traffic and sitting on a grade crossing, on a railroad crossing, in the path of a train.
We got one possibly trapped in the train, possibly alive. I got a DOA in the train as well.
It's a horrifying experience. We've had careers that have been ended as a result of these incidents.
Every one of these accidents breaks our heart, and we need to do everything we possibly can to keep people off those crossings and away from trains.
A lot of folks look at active grade crossings where they have gates and arms as an inconvenience and an annoyance. Those arms are not there to prevent you from being where you want to be, but to help you get there safely.
We just had a situation with a railroad, I think just a couple weeks ago down in Massachusetts. Here's an older article from Massachusetts where you can tell by the age of the driver being 91, that's pretty old, still driving, so you've got to wonder whether her judgment and her reasoning or even her eyesight was adequate enough to deal with the situation. But as you can see, she was caught underneath the gates, and the gates were warning people that a train was coming, so she had plenty of time. And the gates were down in the down position, and her car, I believe, got in on the track somehow and was hit, and she died from that. So it does happen. And like I said, this is from Massachusetts. And like I said, last week, we had 2 weeks ago, we had a situation. Now for probably the most difficult thing to explain and to really fully understand, because even after taking driver's ed and I'm finishing up driving with people, people still, when they drive with me, are so confused about who goes, who waits, what to do in certain traffic situations. So what I want you to do is to write down in your notes right of way, and the law doesn't give anyone the right of way. It only says who must yield it. Remember, a better word for yield is wait. Who must wait? Who should be taking their time letting traffic go before they go? So at an intersection with no traffic control, so there's no signal or sign, usually the vehicle that's to the right has to yield. It's like emerging onto a highway, all right? Has to yield. So there are certain situations, and I don't have the video clip here. So let's kind of go through one by one so you can write these down. First one is if you're the first one at the intersection, you have the right of way that someone's still coming to the intersection. You're already there, you're stopped, you're looking, and you see they're approaching. They have to wait. You were there first. Okay, let's say the two vehicles come at the same time. So the second one, a car that's going straight has the right of way over the vehicle that's turning left. Emergency vehicles, number 3, with their sirens, lights flashing, they get to go. We talked about that tonight. Pedestrians in a crosswalk, we talked about that tonight. Now, the hardest pedestrian, I didn't mention this when we talked about pedestrians. One of the hardest pedestrians to pick up is the one that's coming from the left, because your focus is your lane, probably over to the yellow line, then off to the right side of the road. That's where your focal vision is. Your peripheral vision isn't working as well. And the other thing you've got to watch out for, so write this down in your notes. I'll guarantee you'll have a situation at some point this summer with this, is that when people walk between parked cars and there's a crosswalk, for some reason they have allowed parked vehicles to get so close to crosswalks that a lot of people that are not very tall are hidden by the parked vehicles in front of the crosswalk. So always go slow and look both directions that there's nobody stepping out from that area. 5, vehicles on a main road have the right of way over someone from a side road or driveway. 6, blind people. And really the last one here, reaching the intersection first and stopping, is the same as the first one. So I guess the top one doesn't have to be stop sign, it could be a yield sign. The other thing that's not up here is funerals. You have to yield the right of way to people that are going to a funeral. We already talked about emergency vehicles. A couple other things. Passengers, be very careful when you have people in your vehicle. Make sure that they're in the back seat, they're belted. If it becomes necessary to have people in a truck, make sure they're older than 18, because if they're in the bed of the pickup, you could go over a bump or go too fast. They could lose their footing. The next snapshot picture that I show you is from UNH, and they were being very careless on their way to a football game. I don't know this for sure, but it would not surprise me if drinking was involved. I don't know why the police did not do something, because we were behind them for a while. This article right here is just 2 kids fooling around in a parking lot where a sister actually ran over her brother and killed him. So what I'm trying to say here is that when you have your license, don't let people fool around inside your car or on top of your car, like sit on the hood, the roof, the trunk while it's moving, being inside the car doing stupid stuff. Tell people you're responsible, It's my car, my rules. So if you don't like it, open the door and you're walking, because you're going to be held responsible for anything that happens in your vehicle. Here's the picture that I was talking about. Okay, there's something wrong. Okay, they hit a bump, they go too fast. And the other thing about the picture to the right is, why are they driving on the wrong side of the road? I can't figure that out for the life of me. I think they're getting ready to make a left-hand turn, but they just didn't want to do it from their lane, so they decided to do it from that lane. Not too wise. So don't let people sit on the hood, roof, trunk of a vehicle. Don't let people be in the back of a pickup, as we just saw. If you have to carry like lumber and things like that, anything that extends more than 6 inches should be on the right side, never on the left. Make sure that you don't have too many people in the front that would adversely affect your control of the vehicle. I always say never have more people in the front than you have seat belts. So you got a bench seat, 3 people. You have bucket seats, only 2. Don't start double buckling people. And of course, you can't be in a utility trailer or a house trailer, one that's got a hitch. You can only be in a Winnebago. And most people don't understand what tethered means. So I want you to write down tethered. And you can have your dog in the back of a pickup, but tethered means tied on both sides. If you only have your dog tied on one side, it could jump over the edge and you could drag your dog down the road. Not good for the dog. Tethered means they have a little bit of movement to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back, but it's not going to cause harm to the dog as it jumps out. So basically, that covers rules of traffic law with sign signals and pavement markings. Now, this section that I want to kind of go over with what we got the remainder of time, because tomorrow night we're going to talk about speed. And I really think it's important to talk about stopping first before we talk about speed. I think if you always knew what your car is capable of doing, meaning stopping wise, you're never going to find yourself driving so fast that you don't have control of your vehicle. I think at times we get too comfortable with our driving skills, and our car is so comfortable and it can drive so fast and be so smooth that we think, oh, I'm going 65, 85, whatever. I still can slow down and stop if I have to make this turn, or stop for this animal, or stop for whatever. And then you're going to find out, oh my goodness, my brakes aren't stopping me the way that I thought, and you're going to hit things. So always think about stopping. It's a healthy way to get perspective of how fast you should be traveling. And I like what it says here is that you must see something up ahead in order to plan to stop for something. All right? Let me show you this. Tell me what you think.
At just 5 miles per hour over the 30 miles per hour speed limit, how much further will it take to stop? 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, 11 feet, 12 feet, 13 feet, 14 feet, 15 feet, 16 feet, 17 feet, 18 feet, 19 feet, 20 feet, 21 feet.
There comes a point when you hit your brakes that you can't push the brake pedal down any further. The car is going to do what the car is going to do. The only way that you're going to prevent yourself from hitting things is on the front end of the equation of stopping. And that's your reaction time and your ability to pick up things quick enough to know that you need to stop. Can you imagine in that situation where a child runs in front of you and you hit the brakes and you're just hoping and praying with all your might, I hope I don't hit him, I hope I don't hit him, and then all of a sudden you hear a thud. You did it. It's much better to go slower in high-risk situations. The likelihood of someone running out in front of you on a back road in Lee, Madbury, are pretty slim. You're more likely to see an animal, but probably not a child. Some things just don't happen. But anything that has, how can I say, human value. So a human life has human value. And I'm not trying to discredit wildlife, because I don't think you should hit wildlife either. But there's no reasoning and judgment a lot of times with wildlife. They just react to what they see and feel. Whereas humans, we're making decisions to cross the street, run across, be on skateboards, all these things. You have to start thinking like a pedestrian in town. When you're driving, you got to think about, okay, that skateboarder, he's going to come in front of me. That rollerblader, he's coming from that skateboarder. He's going to do the wrong thing. You've got to start thinking, and then put some value on, I don't want anything bad to happen. Okay. Now, I forgot to put down this clip, so I'll have to show it tomorrow. But let me get into the definition. And while I talk about this definition, I want everybody on YouTube right now who's still here, I want you to write down, give me a number from the time that you see something to the time that you stop going 40 miles per hour. How far does your car go? All right. From the time that you see something to the time that you come to a full stop, your car is going to have traveled how many feet? So write that down in YouTube. So let's talk about how do we know when to stop. So even when road and vehicle conditions are ideal and the driver is perfectly alert. So we're talking about a great day to drive and a driver that is at his best. It takes a great distance to stop a motor vehicle. Now, through the use of good judgment and knowledge of stopping distance, you can reduce the chance of being involved in a crash. So I want you to think about that last part of the paragraph. Through the use of good judgment. Do you think you have good judgment right now? I hope it's better than it was 2-3 weeks ago before you started driving in driver's ed. You're learning things, hopefully, that you've never thought about before. You're putting stuff into practice that you've never had to do before. That's where judgment comes from. Now, hopefully, after tonight, knowing about stopping distance, we're going to have a different perspective of what we're capable of doing in a car. I honestly think you do not have a healthy knowledge of stopping distance. So let's see. Remember, put down what you think your stopping distance at 40 miles per hour. So if we break this down into 3 steps, the first thing is you have to see and recognize there's a need to stop. You're not going to stop for a traffic light if you're on your phone because you're more concerned about your phone. You don't see the light changing. You don't see the pedestrian. You don't see the brake lights. You don't see the pothole. So you have to see the need to stop. Now, your brain has to tell your foot to step on the brake pedal. Why wouldn't your brain be talking to your foot? Distracted? Fatigued? Under the influence of alcohol or drugs? Bad vision? So your eyes aren't communicating? So there are things that will be affecting us as we drive and stop. I cannot believe this class. You guys are great. I have never had a class guess more correctly than you guys. It's 150 feet. I cannot believe that you guys are so close, and some of you are nailing it right on the knot, right on the nose, especially Amelia. Right on the nose, Luke. Right on the nose, Michael. Look at that. Yeah, and Cleo, you guys, awesome. It's 150 feet. That's a half of a football field. You're going, and we drive a lot in 35, 40 mile an hour areas. So you're going half of a football field to stop your vehicle. And to give you an idea, let's say that you double your speed. Okay, it's going to be more than double your stopping distance. It's going to be a lot more than that. A lot more than that. I don't think I have this one either. Yeah, I didn't put down much of the videos for this one. I want you to write down this definition. There are 4 definitions that I want you to write down. This is from the manual. So if you got your manual ready, I don't have what page it's on, but we break down stopping distance in 2 factors: the human factor, and then we do the vehicle factor. So under human reaction, what you're controlling, from the time it takes from the moment you see something to the time you step on your brake is called reaction time. The distance that your vehicle has traveled during that time is called reaction distance. So this has to do with you. A young person is going to have quicker reflexes than an older person. The average driver takes about 3/4 of a second to go from the gas pedal to the brake pedal. And you could probably do it even faster if someone was going to tell you that you're going to have to brake in a minute, so you're already ready for it. But on a normal drive, most drivers, it's going to take you 3/4 of a second. So that's the human reaction part. This is what you can control. Paying better attention, keeping your windshield clear, your eyes in good shape, anticipating, not being distracted. The other part of the equation is your vehicle. So braking time is the time it takes for the brakes and the friction between the road and the tires to stop the vehicle, and braking distance is the distance your vehicle travels during this time. So what you have to do is you've got to total up your reaction distance and your braking distance to give you a full stopping distance. It's just not the skid marks. A lot of people say, well, let's measure the skid marks. Well, a lot of stuff happened before the skid mark started, and that was you getting to the pedal of the brake and how well you used it. It makes no sense to get to a brake pedal and not hit it as hard as you can in an emergency situation. It's not a light press or normal press on the brake pedal. It is full blown pedal to the metal. Floor it. Remember, you cannot break your brake. You're trying to stop in the quickest possible time that you can. Now, we talked about the human element. Now let's talk a little bit about the vehicle. What can you do with your vehicle to make sure that it can stop correctly? Well, every year we're asking people to get their car inspected. By having your car inspected, we're looking for future problems with brakes, suspension, alignment, tires. All these things will come into braking. A lot of times people think, well, when you brake, it's just your brakes. It's more than that. It's more than that on the vehicle. It's your tires. It's your suspension. It's your alignment. It's the type of vehicle that you have. It's the weight of your vehicle. What condition your brake pads are in. But one of the main ways to increase or to make your braking distance very efficient, and the best possible way that you can do it, is your tires. So I want you to write down tires will affect your stopping distance. We talked about road surface. Oh, weather will be a big factor too. So when we talk about rain, I think it's going to rain tomorrow or later in the week. So we got to worry about that. But let's take a look at tires. This is just a quick commercial from Toyota. I thought this was pretty good. So let's take a look at tires.
We tested the effect worn tires have on stopping distance. 60 miles per hour on a wet road. 3 sets of tires, each with different tread depths. And 1 professional driver. When the driver accelerated to 60 miles per hour, watch what happened when he tried to stop. While your actual distances may vary, it took him nearly 10 additional car lengths to stop on worn tires. So, when will you stop? Ask about our complimentary tire inspections.
Whoa, it's pretty dark. I turned off my light. I'm not going to turn it back on, so I'm going to stay in the darkness here while I talk to you. See if I go here. That's a little bit better. Because it's so hot, I turned off. I have an overhead light. I've got lights all over when I normally teach class, so I'm just going to do the computer camera here while I kind of close things up for tonight. So we covered everything we needed to know with sign signals, pavement markings. We just kind of scratched the surface on braking. We'll talk a little bit more about braking tomorrow, but tomorrow's subject will be speed, and we'll also get into road rage. And what I'd like you to do with road rage, so part of your homework tonight is doing, go to the Facebook page. I will have some sample questions for chapter 3, I think, that you had to read with sign signals and pavement markings. I think that's what it was. So we'll have some questions there for you. But I want you to find an article about road rage. And I want you to read it. And I want you to give me a paragraph summary of why you think it happened. Why did someone get out of their vehicle with a baseball bat? What was it? Because someone cut them off? Was it something that should have taken place? How could they have resolved the situation? Because a lot of times with speed comes tailgating, and that's when we have some real issues. So we're going to be talking about speed and road rage together tomorrow, and I'm going to show you a pretty lengthy video tomorrow, and I have some reaction statements that I want you to respond to. So besides chapter 3 on the remote Facebook page, I'm also going to download the reaction paper that I want you to download and answer the questions during the video tomorrow. So I don't have to post it tomorrow. Just go to that. All right. So if you can't get the Facebook remote information, I'll have to send it to you by text. But for the most part, we're going to do everything with Facebook. I think I told you, I'm just going to do it one more time. If you want to drive the next couple days, I only have a few spots for tomorrow and Thursday. Friday and Saturday opens up. And if you still want to drive next week, and you've got times like I want to drive 10 o'clock 3 days next week, just let me know. I'll start slotting people for next week too. But tomorrow I've got 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. Tomorrow I have 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Thursday, I'm sorry. Thursday I have 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Friday is pretty wide open after 10. And Saturday is all wide open too. So just let me know that if you want to drive. I'm really looking just for tomorrow for like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So let me know if you can drive. I'll try to slot you in, and we'll try to do more of that. Remember, I sent out links to the calendar so you can view it. I think some of you are having a hard time opening it. I'll see what I can do to resubmit it or whatever, but that's the best way to look and see if I have openings, because I think it shows you that. I think that's it for tonight, because I am pretty hot. But we made it. We got to the point where we needed to go. So go to Facebook. In about 5 minutes, I'll have that stuff posted for you. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to text me and let me know what's on your mind, and I'll try to answer that. And sign up for driving. I need drivers. So that's it for tonight. Have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow night if you're not driving.